So I was asked a question from someone in our Telegram group, and he'd asked, why is it that the internal monologue is always negative? And my response to that was, why is this world so negative? Why is everything in the world negative? It was a good question because it got me really thinking. I got on social media and scrolled through and just started reading the comments. You see like a post, and then you go into the comments, and then it's just people just judging the fuck out of like everything that they see. Just, this is not good. I don't like this. I don't like that. That increases suffering. Why is everything so negative? Why is that our default? It made me think of the story of Adam and Eve. I was thinking about judgment and how in the Bible, the story of Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge, it wasn't the tree of knowledge, it was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Knowledge of good and evil was what caused the fall of man. If you reinterpret that, what is knowledge of good and evil? Well, it's essentially judgment, right? You're saying this is good and this is evil. Before the fall, right, Adam and Eve existed in that same garden. They didn't judge anything as anything. They were just in the garden chilling. Their circumstances were exactly the same as they were before they ate of the fruit. And then they ate the fruit, and then they began to, quote, know good from evil. But it wasn't. They were just judging. They, in paradise, began to find fault. And so what is the knowledge of good and evil? Is it really a knowledge, or is that a deception? I think the split into this duality of this is good and this is evil, I believe that itself is what takes mankind from a god to a beast, to a mere man. The moment we begin to judge things as good and evil is the moment that the corruption began. The moment Adam and Eve began to judge things as good and evil, it was the moment that, well, they lost their peace and they began to suffer. Right? They looked at each other and said, you should not be wearing clothes, right? Or we should not be naked. And so they began to judge, this is not good. This is bad. This is good. To wear clothes is good. You think to the God of the Bible, once again, not meaning to offend, just commentary, right? He was an incredibly judgmental God. He labeled everything as good and evil. And he too had eaten from that same tree. So he was corrupted first. Now, if you read, it says that after they ate from the fruit of the tree of knowledge, the God hid the tree of life so that Adam and Eve would not become like the gods. Because that was the only thing at that point that separated the biblical God from Adam and Eve, right? The biblical God had eaten from both trees. The biblical God had eaten from the tree of judgment. It knew right from wrong. And knew, I put in quotes, because that knowledge could be a judgment. It could be a deception. It's not really knowledge. He just labeled this as good and bad. And if you go and you read the Bible, a lot of the things that he called good versus bad were not really good or bad. They're just things that he decreed as good versus bad. And there were people that he decreed as good versus bad. And there were whole cultures that he derided as bad. He too was corrupted by that same fruit. It reminds me a bit of Gollum and the ring of power. The more you sort of possess the ring, the more it corrupts you and it changes your perspective, right? And all of a sudden you can only see things through the lens of the ring and how it wants you to perceive things. And I think the same thing with the fruit. The more you work or you walk with that mindset of good and bad, right and wrong, judgment, instead of just observing things as they are, the more it corrupts you, the more it festers your soul. He hid the tree of life so that they wouldn't become like gods. But to me, that whole life concept is also a deception, because if your souls are judged after your body dies, then clearly you're immortal outside of form. So if Adam and Eve and the rest of us are to be judged after our body dies, right, after you die, your soul comes back and is judged according to this scripture, according to this writing, then you are immortal. It's just the body might be mortal, but not who you really are, right? Which makes me wonder if then the only difference is between us and the gods, or us and the biblical God, was that they had bodies that didn't die. But if you're truly seeking peace, if you're truly desiring to be like God, to truly be like God, because just because the biblical God says to eat from the tree of life, that's what it means to be like a God. Look at the way we're living. Is this godlike? That doesn't mean that he was right. I think to truly be like a God is to observe, not in the sense of like what we think of as power, right? archon type of power, right? Where you just go around judging, this is bad and this is bad and you're awful and this is that and you shouldn't have done that. That's a very archonic, right? Law driven type of madness. It's this controlling thing. It's this trying to force everything to fit into a particular umbrella of what things are supposed to be because you want power, as opposed to just accepting things as they are. To truly be intelligence, to truly be conscious, is to just truly be present, to truly just sit and observe. This is neither good nor bad. It just is. Adam and Eve were more close to what modern people would conceptualize as a god, not like as an archaic ruler that dominates and imposes his or her will or their will on others, but more of just something that is just existence itself being God, just enjoying the moment, just enjoying paradise, to be able to sit in the space that you're in. That's what Eastern mystics said was closest to being truly like God, is to just be. Not to be this, not to be that. It's to simply just be. If you could simply just be and just accept the world as it is. This happened. That happened. Interesting. And instead of working towards an end goal and missing the present moment that you're in, literally just enjoying existence itself, just enjoying what is, that is more godlike than what we have been programmed to think of as godlike or God. Domineering, ruling, judgmental. This is bad, this is bad. I implore you to go a day. Try to go a day. People are encouraged to meditate, right? 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Try to go a day, try to go a few hours, where instead of judging whatever occurrences and whatever situation that you encounter as this is good or this is bad, stop at is. This just is. This is. And just observe. Because if you can go a day without labeling something as bad or good or just is, I'm telling you, what it does to the mind, what it does to the brain, what it does to the psyche is truly remarkable. Everyone is judging everyone, and everything is good or bad, right or wrong. We go around condemning, and then we suffer for it. We've made a paradise into hell with just our minds. Technically speaking, isn't heaven a world without judgment? Then, if we're living in a world where full of judgment and condemnation, that haven't we presently made hell out of this world? And is the key to finding heaven in hell literally just is to stop judging? That's how we fight it. The moment it starts on talking and telling you this is a good thing or that person did a bad thing, if instead of fighting against it, you take a step back and just go, look, this thing is neither good nor bad, it just is. And the moment you catch your internal monologue trying to force you to judge things as this or that, good or bad, right or wrong, then ultimately you don't know whether or not something happening is a good thing or a bad thing. You're judging. Judgments are made in error all the time or based on erroneous information. And then you torture yourself. You suffer for it.